Hi, I'm Jenny. I am a freelance developer and I run the Facebook group for female developers called Women in Web Dev. This is a Facebook Live that I did a few weeks ago. So today, the topic is what do developers do all day? I know, impression is we write code and we use the terminal and it just looks like we're in the Matrix. But what else do we do, right? What is it like to work as a developer? And I want to thank Lauren for posting the question. It's a little bit of an inspiration for my topic today. I have lots of topics, but that one really spoke to me, so I thought I would chime in on what a day in my life looks like. So my job is a full stack developer and I work remotely at a company called SmarterQ. It's a social media management tool, so similar to Hootsuite and Buffer, but it's not. So the interface is different and it's targeting towards like different target markets almost. So it's kind of like we are not even competitors, rather we're serving different people. So I think of myself as more of a back-end developer. So focused mostly more on databases and API integration. So my job is full stack, so I do write front-end code with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but I do prefer the back end. Lately, what I've been working on is LinkedIn and Instagram. They've made some changes to their API, so it means that on our side, for the integrations, we need to update some of the code while preserving existing functionality. With social media networks, there's so much functions and like there's ads, there's messages, there's like posting. So the documentation for any social network is huge, but not all of the stuff actually applies to your application, right? So for us, because SmarterQ helps people schedule their social media posts, what we mostly focus on is the publishing APIs and like logging in with OAuth. When I migrated the APIs to the new versions, it can be really confusing since there's like different permissions that you have to request, and then because we have existing customers that already have old tokens, so we had to figure out, once we push up this new code, are the old tokens still going to work? And if they aren't going to work, how do we tell people that they need to update it, right? So there's just a lot of moving pieces. And what I found was that I had to do some trial and error, especially with LinkedIn. So I had to request different combinations of permissions and just trying to test out, okay, do they work with version 1 of the API? Do they work with a version 2 of the API? So we needed to know like how to make it work with the app and what will happen once it's deployed, because we don't want to break anyone's integrations. And if people have posts scheduled and their tokens don't work, it means that their posts aren't going to be published, right? So on the back end, so apart from reading the documentation and figuring out what's actually happening when we migrate the API, is that I needed to make sure that things are still saved to the database properly. So with like a new endpoint, there's usually like kind of new information, or at least it's named differently or organized in a different way. So I needed to know, okay, if I wanted to save your username, I know the right field to save. And I've also written like a lot of tests to make sure that, okay, if we have this response from the API, we are saving it as, XYZ in the database. So that really cuts down on manual testing. And so for the front end, so that's really not my forte, but thank goodness we have two really great UX designers who just kind of chart out the flow of how, each screen should look. And as the user click on different buttons, what should happen. With Instagram, they're really trying to push the business profiles because they want to make, money. So with Instagram, if you have a business profile and you have a Facebook page that manages that Instagram profile, you can basically connect through to the new Graph API. Linking these things up is a little bit complicated. So we had this huge complicated flow chart where it's okay, user clicks on add my Instagram profile. And then it's okay, we have to tell, is this a business profile or personal profile? If it's a personal or if it's a business profile, then we needed to see, okay, are they linked up to any of the existing Facebook pages that are already in our account? And just stuff like that. And, you could have a business Instagram profile, but not have it linked up to any Facebook pages. So what happens then, right? So it's a lot of just trying to figure out the different scenarios that can happen with each person's profile and situation, and what screens or pop-ups we're supposed to show them. A few months ago, we implemented some new testing frameworks. So it's actually helped a lot in cutting down on manual testing. I've worked at the company for almost a year, and before, basically what we have to do is manually test all the scenarios every time. And that was really time consuming, and it was confusing. And if I made some improvements in the code, I'm I don't know if I have just broken something or not. So now we have new testing frameworks, and we have something called automated acceptance testing. So what that is that on the server, you fire up something called a headless browser, and you tell the browser what buttons to click on using CSS selectors. And then you tell it what you expect to see. So if I wanted to add my Instagram profile and it's a personal profile, it should just, I should just click on the button, it'll connect to the profile, and then there should be a pop-up saying, hey, congrats, your Instagram profile is connected. So yeah, the acceptance testing framework allows me to just write this test once, and I can run it as many times as I want to. And if it fails, I'm I have broken something, and I know exactly where I need to look to fix it. So after the feature is done, then we do code reviews. Right now, I don't do peer code reviews, but it's something that the company wants to implement. So usually what happens is that different members of the team should be looking at each other's code to make sure, just to catch some stupid errors. More pairs of eyes is always better to catch bugs. Right now, it's mostly the CTO who reviews all the code. So kudos to him. So yeah, he gives me feedback on what I need to do to fix the code. We have some other people testing, the CEO tests, and he is very particular in some of his feedback. And then after I get feedback, I implement it. So for me, my day looks like it's reading documentation. If it's a new and unfamiliar API, it's writing code, obviously, writing tests, testing features, and looking at UX flowcharts and wireframes, and just really making sure I understand all the different moving pieces. If when someone clicks on this button, what's supposed to happen on the front end and on the back end. Oh, yes. Oh, I have a lovely comment from Jamie. Hi, Jamie. Okay. Oh, are you supposed to choose one over the other? Are you supposed to choose the back end or the front end? I would say, like, if you don't know, that's okay, right? Like, if you're new to this and you don't know, then just say you're open to either one, because you're still trying to figure it out, and that's fine. I think right now what's happening is that they're like with the new front end frameworks with React and Angular and all that, it's like a whole new learning curve. Like there's a huge learning curve that comes with these frameworks. So that's why people are like, I guess, separating into like different specialties, front end versus back end. But a lot of people do full stack, like front to back, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think it's more fun to do a little bit of both. I mean, you don't have to choose one over the other if you don't want to. But I think like once, the more you work with one over the other, you'll naturally have a preference. But it's nice to work in both because you kind of use different parts of your brain. So for the back end is more logical and step by step. But if you're doing some front end work, it can be a little bit easier on your brain because you're just making things look pretty, and maybe someone else has already told you how it's supposed to look and you're just replicating it. So it can be a little bit more, well, for me, like, I don't know, just easier on the logical side of my brain. Yeah. So I hope this was helpful. It's fun being a developer. I get to solve new problems all the time. Like I said, I've been with the company for about a year, but I feel like I'm still learning lots, especially because we are modernizing our code. So the code was first written like 7 or 8 years ago when the CEO was building his first company. And this was before PHP became object-oriented. So that's like really old PHP. And everything, like, there's like really no frameworks. It's like just all the files stitched together with like require like up at the top. So there's really no organization. And over the last year, we've really tried to implement Symfony, so some sort of framework with controllers, services, just to make things a little bit more organized. And with the new testing framework, so I've had to learn how to use them myself. And then now with the latest feature, we've implemented Doctrine. It's an ORM, which means that like it's kind of like a layer to talk to your database. So what we used to do is write raw SQL to insert and update stuff to the database. But with Doctrine, with an ORM, it just speeds up the development once you know how to use it. So I'm still in the learning phase, but it is exciting because it's something new and we're following more modern practices, and yeah, it's fun. So anyways, that's it for me this week, and I'll talk to you all again next week with a new topic.